We are back. I am back here with Sean. Now, if you have been following me for any length of time, you'll know that there's a couple themes that I am trying to bring to the world. One of my big pet peeves and that causes me endless frustration is this industry that I'm involved with called auto detailing. Endless choices, endless voices, so much hype, so much BS. The problem and the reason I get so frustrated is because I remember what it was like to be a beginner. And I remember being so overwhelmed. It's just like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. There's so many choices. And now, see, back in the day when I started 30 years ago, it was the direct opposite. There wasn't enough information. So you were left out in the world, the big evil world, on your own to figure it out by yourself. And that's literally what I had to do. Now the direct opposite is the problem. It's what I call information overload. So I brought Sean in camera because what I want to do is illustrate a problem, and the answer to that problem is what I'm going to meticulously deconstruct and dissect moving forward. So I've been off the radar for a long time. I had some personal issues, which is a whole nother video series for another time. But now I'm back. But in the meantime, I did not sit on my butt doing nothing. I was actively engaged in research and studying and this type of stuff. So, information overload. The problem is there, because of the internet, there's so many voices out there and there's such contradictions between the voices. So Sean here, you're a beginner.
Yep.
Have you polished an entire car even by yourself?
No.
Okay, what, in your own words, how much polishing experience do you have?
Very little.
Define very little.
From very little to none. I would say.
Okay.
So
the last video we shot,
yeah.
we actually got you behind a buffer, correct?
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Okay, so you have a little bit of experience now.
Yeah.
And by little bit, almost none.
Right.
So what I want to do is illustrate or to have you talk about an experience that you had with, let me grab something here. This is a product called BlackLight. It is put out by a company called
The Chemical Guys.
Chemical Guys. Now, just to clarify, what you are about to hear is my opinion only, okay? And what is the saying? Opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got one and they all stink. So my opinion and your opinion may stink, but whatever, it's my opinion, but my opinion happens to be based on experience. So while Chemical Guys make some very good products, they, in my opinion, are one of the worst offenders of saturating this industry with endless products. Yeah. They have like 1,001 products. Okay, that was hyperbolic, perhaps. Right. They probably only have 991 products. Yeah. Not really 1,001 products. Right. Point is this is where I want you to come in. You tell us a story that led up to this finding itself into your hands.
Right. So I went to Chemical Guys because I was doing a job. I was going to detail a black 4Runner, and I needed something for the swirl marks and the scratches. I walked in, told him what I needed. He really sold me.
I'm going to stop you right here, so because I want to clarify, because I'm really directing this at beginners.
Right.
So swirl marks and scratches, you said.
Yes.
Okay. So in your opinion, based on your limited experience, what would be the process of eliminating swirl marks and scratches? What do you think would require in order to do that?
Right. So in my head, since I'm a beginner, I require a polish.
A polish. Okay, so right there.
Yeah.
Let's define polish. Right. What does a polish mean to you?
Something that masks the scratches and the swirl marks.
See how interesting that is? That is the key word, masks. Yeah. So let's define that word.
Right.
When you say masks, what does that mean to you?
Covers it up.
Covers it up.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask you this. As a professional, why would you want to cover it up rather than eliminate it?
Right.
Is it because you don't know that you can actually eliminate it, or because you want a simpler approach because you want to just get in and out? Does that make sense?
Yes, I would say it's probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
But mainly it's because I don't know.
Okay, so you have this like cloud of like information, opinions that are floating around,
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure out like what the hell's going on.
Right.
Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting that you said masks.
Right.
Because there is endless products that will mask that.
Yeah.
Because, for example, a wax or a sealant, that's one of the objectives or benefits of a wax and a sealant. It's not just about protection.
Right.
Because a lot of guys will get hyper focused on, oh, I want to protect my paint, therefore I need to wax it or I need to apply some kind of sealant to it.
Yeah.
But the other goal of wax and sealant is to mask,
Right.
conceal, cover up imperfections in the paint. So that would be the most simple solution.
Right.
The problem is waxes and sealants are limited in their ability to mask and conceal imperfections. It can only do so much.
Yeah.
It's all relative to what I call the canvas. One of my favorite analogies is surfing.
Right.
For example, I could be the best surfer in the world, but if I'm put out in the waves, and those waves are what we call little ankle slappers, waves that are basically 6 inches tall,
Yeah.
how much can I possibly do?
Right.
Okay, I'm screwed. I
Yeah.
don't care how good of a surfer I am. I can't work with that, guys. So if your canvas, as in the car that you needed to detail, is so bad, wax and sealant, I don't care how many layers you put on it,
Yeah.
it's only going to do so much because the canvas is so bad.
Right.
Therefore, you recognize that, hence swirls and scratches. You wanted to, in your words, mask it.
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, it's like, well, wait a minute, why don't you want to eliminate it?
Right.
And that's where paint enhancement and paint correction are different.
Right.
Paint correction is permanent, meaning you correct it. A lot of guys are actually confused by that term. A total beginner would be like, correct paint? What does that even mean? I didn't know paint was incorrect where it needed to be corrected, kind of like in English class. You get a check on your answer because it's incorrect. Well, you need to correct that problem, Darren. It's like, oh, okay, so now we're talking about paint. Like, okay, so that paint is wrong?
Yeah.
It needs to be corrected? What does that even mean? Well, what it means is that you are changing or altering the surface of the paint so that it looks better.
Right.
Okay, but you want to do it at a permanent level. So wax and sealants is a way to enhance it so it looks visually better, but it's not permanent because you haven't changed the surface structure of the paint.
Right.
That's where polishes and compounds come in. Oh, and by the way, do you know the difference between a polish and a wax? Or
No.
I'm sorry,
No.
a polish and a compound?
No.
No. Most people don't.
Right.
You know why? Because there's no standardization in this industry. It's all over the board.
Right.
So what one company calls a polish, another company might call a compound, and vice versa. It's like, well, which is it? Which is it? And that's the problem is that there's no standardization, and everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
The simple answer is compounds, more aggressive, as in more abrasives, polishes, less abrasives, finer abrasives.
Okay.
So compound would be like the heavy lifting, polishing would be like the light lifting. Okay, that would be the simplified explanation of that. But there you are in
Right.
chemical guys.
Right.
You're asking a very specific question.
Yeah.
Got a black car, scratches, swirl marks. What do I do?
Right.
So you take it back and tell me what happened.
So I basically explained to him that I needed something.
You keep talking.
Okay. I needed something to paint Black Forerunner, and the guy went straight to this product called BlackLight, and he said, "I said, are you sure this is gonna work?" He said, "This will work amazingly." So
Amazingly.
amazingly,
Okay.
this is exact words.
Let me stop you right
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
And see, this is where I'm such a, I'm just such a butthole. Let's just call me a butthole, okay? About communication. And this is why in so many of my videos that I drive home why communication is so important.
Right.
For example, when you have people that are using terms, but there's 3 of us in this room right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can throw one term out and we could ask all 3 of us what the definition of that term is. Guess what? We would come up with 3 definitions. It's
right.
like, wait a minute. If we can't even agree on the definition of a single word, how are we going to actually communicate?
Right.
So when you say you need something that works, what does that mean?
Right.
So in your head, you say, I need something that works. I'm going to guess that in your head that probably means works in the context of remove scratches and swirl marks.
Yes.
But that's where I'm going to bring it around and say, well, wait a minute. Weren't you the guy that says you just want to mask it?
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, I did say that. So masking and permanently changing it in a better way is 2 different things.
Right.
Because I could throw 100 different products at you that will mask it.
Yeah.
And so in your world, according to your description,
Right.
masking would qualify as working, correct?
Right. It would.
But now I'm telling you,
Yeah.
what if you could correct that and eliminate it at a permanent level? Now, when you walk in there and you say, I need something that works, now that's going to mean something entirely different, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, this guy that's working the shop,
Yeah.
he's limited on his skills.
Yes.
Because if it was me that you came to, I would clarify the stuff. It's like,
Right.
okay, you want something that works. Tell me what you mean by works.
Right.
And you'd say mass. It's like, oh, really, mass? You want something that mass? Well, here's 5 different products. Why don't you just pick out what looks the coolest to you and let's just go with that one?
Right.
Because they're all going to mask.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, it's like, hey, Sean, do you know that you can actually correct that? And what I mean by correct is that you can permanently change that paint finish so that it looks better and it will remain better.
Right.
As in, it will not just go away because the products you put on top of it's going to go away.
Right.
So if I told you that, you'd be like, oh, okay, I want that.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what you would have said?
Yes.
Okay. So the point was, I'm trying to illustrate a few things here. One, poor communication is going on.
Right.
That's always a problem.
Yeah.
So, but he, as an expert,
Right.
because he's the one manning the shop, he's the one that's representing essentially chemical guys.
Right.
That's what he's selling is chemical guys.
Right.
So you come in and you say swirl marks and scratches.
Right.
In my opinion, he should have said or known in his head is like, wait a minute, this guy's a beginner. He's going to be limited on his ability to even describe exactly what he wants.
Right.
Do you recall if you used the word masks to him, or you just said you want something that works for swirls and scratches?
At the beginning, I believe I said that's something that works for. I needed something to remove the scratches and swirls. That's what I told him.
Okay, right there. See,
Yeah.
remove.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we just introduced yet another term.
Right.
Okay, remove.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think masking something is the same as removing something?
No.
I don't.
Right, but he kept on changing it for me. Like instead of like answer my question, he would say, "Well, you gotta use BlackLight," and I said, "Well, does that actually work on the scratches and swirl marks?" And he said, "Well, it actually masks. It'll mask the problem."
Okay.
But he never actually gave me what I wanted. But at the time, I didn't know any better. Now that
and this is what I talk about is for guys, because of your inexperience, you don't even know the right questions to ask.
Right. That's
and
what I was
that is the problem. So part of my strategy with my videos is to not just educate, but educate you guys in the context of, wait a minute, what if you guys are A, asking the wrong questions, and B, not even asking the right questions because you don't know what the right questions are to ask because you just don't have that experience.
Right.
So we have mask, we have eliminate, we have paint correction. Those are all different strategies.
But the problem is that he told me that this will fix all those problems.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So it was misleading.
Yes.
Let's just call it misleading.
Yes.
We're not going to say he was lying or
No.
anything else. It sounds like he had a specific agenda in that moment to sell you BlackLight.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a brand new, latest
I don't
and
know.
greatest.
Yeah.
Maybe this is their 1,002nd product.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's their 993rd product. I have no idea.
Right.
Point is he wanted to get it into your hands.
Yes.
What if I told you that this was actually a weight loss problem or a weight loss solution? Would you believe me?
Probably.
Why would you believe me?
Because you've been doing it for 30 years and you're an expert.
Well,
That's
kind of.
good.
Actually, this is just where I'm going to be sarcastic.
Okay, yeah.
Because often with the industry, their main agenda, regardless of how they present themselves, is to separate you from your money.
Right.
Because they want to sell you stuff. And that's how they're going to separate you from your money, is they're going to come up with more and more stuff,
Right.
different labeling, different terminology, different color, different smells.
Yeah.
It's going to pull those emotional triggers, because that's how we buy, by the way.
Right.
This is a little marketing lesson here, a little sidebar. We buy as a rule based on emotion. Once we make the purchase, then we rationalize it intellectually. So the industry, if they're smart enough, they know that. So they will reach in and they will figure out how to pull those emotional triggers.
Yeah.
Color, like this packaging. Oh, it's purple. Well, that's special. That's unique.
It smells good.
BlackLight.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool label.
Yeah.
That's unique.
Yeah.
Smells good.
Yeah.
So they're pulling all these emotional, visceral, what's called visceral triggers.
Right.
So you walk away and think, oh, well, I just talked to an expert. Chemical guys is well known in the industry. Clearly, I have the answer to my problem.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and I'm going to perform some paint enhancement, paint correction,
Right.
and I'm going to look like a rock star, and I'm going to have all these customers flock to me, and I'm going to be the greatest detailer on the block.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That was the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
So, back to it. They sold you this.
Right.
You left with the notion that this would solve your problems, which was specifically swirl marks,
Right.
scratches.
Yes.
Okay, so this is where I want to do some hands-on demonstrating, because I read this labeling, and I'm not going to bore you guys with the labeling. You can look at it yourself, but it's filled with all kinds of what I call theatrics, hyperbole, marketing tricks.
Yeah.
You know, anything from nano labeling, or sorry, I misspoke, nano blending. Okay, what does that mean? But I could tell when you show me this, I read the description and I could tell you, it's like, Sean, this is not going to do any permanent paint correction.
Right.
At best, it will cover stuff up,
Right.
which, to fall back on your word, masked.
Right.
So yes, it will mask. It will make the paint appear to look better,
Yeah.
but it's not going to do anything at a permanent level.
Right.
So let's just show firsthand what permanent looks like
Yeah.
versus masking or enhancing looks like.
Right.
So what I want to do, and this is going to appear like yet another commercial for CSI. This is part of my frustration, is that I have been aware of this product for 15-ish years. I don't know exactly how long, it's just that that's how long, how far back this goes. But because it has not been available, it was a product that was designed to answer very specific problems in the auto body world. Well, the auto body world has enough parallels with the detailing world, specifically paint correction, paint enhancement, defect removal, that there's going to be a natural bleed over. So I was always frustrated because on my website and my videos, it's like, wow, what am I going to do? Hey, Sean, there's this really cool product.
Yeah.
It's what's called a single product polish. Oh, by the way, you can't get it though.
Right.
Only I can get it.
Right.
Or only the auto body can get it. But it's really, really cool, and it will like literally solve so many of your problems.
Right.
How frustrated would you be?
Very frustrating.
Very frustrated. So why would I do that? Because I know there's other products that will work.
Yeah.
Okay, there's that word again, work. That's a gross generalization. Well, let's define work, Darren. What does that even mean? It's like, well, it will work. It will do paint correction. Okay, that BlackLight, that ain't gonna be it.
Right.
That will do paint enhancement, but ain't gonna do paint correction.
Sure.
So I know there's plenty of products that will do paint correction and paint enhancement. There's plenty of products that will do only paint enhancement. This product, once again, this is going to solve so many problems, and I'm going to, like, it's kind of like a sledgehammer approach. Okay, not only do I want to come in with a sledgehammer and just rip the place down, because in my opinion it needs to be ripped down in a lot of ways, but I also want to come in with a precise, like a scalpel, like a surgeon's scalpel, and dissect this industry with all the hyped up terminology, all the BS and the hype, so the guys understand, like, okay, what does nanotechnology even mean? Okay, now I know what it means. Wait a minute, is that even important or relevant to my world as a detailer? Maybe yes, maybe no. So I want to deconstruct this world so the guys, specifically beginners, will be like, oh, wow, now I know. Now I know that 99% of the opinions and stuff out there is just crap.
Yeah.
Now, yes, that's a little over dramatized.
Right.
I'm just trying to drive home that point.
Right.
So that's what I want to do. So let's do some hands-on stuff here. What we've done in advance is we have sanded this area. I've bisected it. How was that for a term of the day? I bisected it. So what I've done is I split it in half. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the BlackLight, we're gonna use it on these 1200 grit sanding marks. Now, I know there's gonna be someone behind the scenes there is gonna be like, dude, that's not a fair comparison because Sean, it's unlikely that that car you were trying to detail is gonna be scratched up with 1200 grit. No, it's not. But it's going to dramatize the effect. So whether it's subtle scratches, swirl marks, whatever, the point is you want to remove them. You don't want to just cover them up.
Right.
So this will actually dramatize the effect of covering up or enhancing, this eliminating and doing both.
Right.
So what would you like to try first?
Actually, I want to start with the BlackLight first.
I was just going to say, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Would you like to be disappointed first, or would you like to be enamored first?
I would like to see the BlackLight first.
Okay.
Because then I want to see the wow factor right afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's put the BlackLight in your hand.
Okay.
So this is not an endorsement for Flex Tool. It just happens to be one of the tools that I recommend. They make a quality tool. It's German engineering. This is what's called a random dual action polisher, meaning they call it dual action because it has two movements. It spins and it vibrates. Some people will call it oscillate, some people call it vibrate, it doesn't matter. It does it. What it's meant to do is replicate the movement of your hand. So the simple definition is, think of the sun, or I'm sorry, the earth. The earth spins on an axis point, but also circles the sun, right?
Yeah.
So this spins and oscillates.
Okay.
So it spins around like the earth, but then it goes around the sun as a spinning. So that's my simplified explanation of what this does. So this is their dual action random orbital polisher, quality tool, pad. It's a foam pad. This is what's considering a cutting / finishing pad. It's kind of the medium of both. Right. So let me quickly clean this pad. There we have a relatively clean pad. For our demonstration purposes, that is sufficient. So, put this in your hand. Now, by the way, let me just ask, have you used, oh wait, you own a Chemical Guys. Wow, that's coincidence. Mm-hmm. You own the Chemical Guys buffer, which is also a dual action random orbital polisher.
Right.
Okay, that's what I call an enthusiast beginner type of polisher,
Right.
this is professional grade.
Sure.
So how much polish do you think you should apply? And this really actually isn't a polish. Let's see how they label it. Hybrid radiant finish. Okay.
Well,
I don't even know what to do with those terms.
I know.
Hybrid, radiant, finish, whatever. Okay.
Right.
Just apply however much you think you should.
How much I should or how much? Okay. Okay.
Pretend I wasn't here.
Okay.
Let's pretend
Okay.
you're in front of that car.
Yeah.
How much do you think would you put on? And I realize a lot of this is going to be based on the amount of training that you and I have had.
So I have a feeling it's probably too much.
Well, you know, it depends on who you ask, because
Yeah.
there's this big thing about priming the pad. This is one of these hyped up areas where it's like, oh, we have to prime the pad, so we're going to make sure that we cover every part of this pad with polish. Then we're going to come back in and apply a few more dollops. To me, that's just more hype.
Right.
Okay, so as you work this, it's going to spread the polish naturally around the surface that you're working on anyways. So that's sufficient.
Okay.
So let's start with that. Now this is a variable speed, which means there's a spectrum of speed settings.
Right.
So right now it's on speed 6, which is the highest.
Okay.
So because you're a beginner,
Should probably go a little
let's
lower,
just dial it down.
Yeah.
Let's just go with a 4
Okay.
and go with that.
Okay.
So you pick whatever side you want to work on.
We'll do
and
the right
let's-
side
Oh, okay.
and then work. We have to.
There's
okay.
no right or wrong. You just go with it.
Okay.
What kind of pressure are you putting down on that?
Not very much.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and kind of lay into it?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, put some pressure into it.
Okay.
Now notice that it's actually stopped spinning.
Yeah.
You can tell by the markings.
Yes.
So I can tell that you're putting
Too much pressure?
sufficient amount of
Oh,
pressure
okay,
on
okay,
it.
okay.
But it's
It's not spinning.
now, because it's not what's called a forced rotation
Okay.
dual action,
Yeah.
meaning only one of the movements is gear driven.
Okay.
So because you're putting enough pressure on it, it's stopping the actual spinning of the pad itself, and now it's just vibrating.
Okay.
So if this was a course on how to use a buffer,
Right.
that's what I would be going more in length to. So just back off a little bit
Okay.
so that it continues to vibrate and
Got it.
spin at the same time.
I understand.
At what point do you think you should stop?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
That's a very good question. I don't have an answer to that question, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Hold that thought.
Yep.
'Cause now, this camera's weird. Tom, does that camera have a time limit? Because my camera will stop after 29.
This is 28 minutes so far.
So I just know my camera actually stops recording at 29 minutes for whatever reason. I have no idea. So I saw it and I wanted to stop it. So I'm going to start this again.
It actually didn't really do much of anything. But you already know that though.
Okay, so we are back. You polished. Go ahead and wipe it.
Yeah.
Now you look at that and you tell me what happened.
It looks terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't really do much of anything. It did very, very little. Obviously, that area is the area I focus the most. But
Right along here.
yeah, but
Yeah.
even then, it doesn't even look much
But
better.
in fairness to the product,
Yeah.
it actually did enhance the look
Right.
because before we had total, Tom, why don't you pan over here? Okay, so before we had complete what I call a satin finish. This is a scratch pattern and it creates a satin finish. Now we have over here, and the area that you concentrated more on, at least it has some shine to it, correct?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay, so it did something. But
it didn't do
did
what
it
I wanted
work?
to, yeah.
Right, it didn't do what you wanted.
Yes.
But that's where someone in audience land would say like, well, dude, if it was just like normal paint, then that would be enough.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know, would it? What I would do at this point is, because I can, through experience, I can assure you that that product has what's called plenty of fillers in it.
Okay.
Silicates, which is silicone. So there's all types of chemicals they can add to products that will create a filling, concealing effect to it, but it's temporary. So once you wash it with the right chemical, or it's going to naturally wear away, then it's going to look exactly like it did before.
Right.
So at this point, if I was really testing that BlackLight product, what I would do is I would just take an alcohol solution, I would spray it and wipe it. Okay, so what I did is I went out into my van. Oh, a little sidebar. I got to thank Tom again for letting us have access to a shop. I know that there's kind of a, you could say, a hidden agenda. It's like, well, of course Tom's going to let you use his shop, Darren. I mean, you're promoting his product. It's like, okay, whatever. You know, there's 1,000 ways Tom can promote his product independent of me.
Right.
So thank you, Tom, for letting us have
Thank you, Tom.
access to this. Yeah. So this is it's a solution. It's what's called a 50-50 solution. Half rubbing alcohol, half water. I don't overthink it, because there's this whole debate as to blah, blah. Anyhow, don't get me started. So what alcohol will do, though, is it will remove the fillers, the concealers, the whatever you want to call them. So what I want to do is see exactly what. And honestly, as I'm wiping this, I'm impressed, based on the description of the label, I'm impressed that the chemical guy's product was able to do this much to 1200 grit sanding marks. I'm actually impressed. So thumbs up, chemical guys, okay? But that's not really the only problem here. That's actually a good problem.
Yeah.
So, but did it do, once again, to ask that question again, did it do what you wanted it to do?
No.
So, but once again, in defense of chemical guys, if this was just a normal car with normal scratches, normal swirl marks, you actually probably could perform at a level that would be acceptable to most car owners.
Right.
Because most car owners do not have a very developed eye. And as long as they see shiny, and as long as they see shinier, after you're done versus before you started, then a lot of times for most people, that's going to be adequate. They're going to be like, oh, wow, that looks so shiny. Thanks, Sean. You did a great job. I'm going to tell all my friends and family about you.
Yes.
So here we have that. You can see the difference. We have some shine created there. Not so much there, but that was the area that you concentrated on. So what I want to do is now get you in the hands of a product that can actually do both. So lift up that buffer. This is the Ceram-x. It's kind of a play on words. It's like ceramic coating, but it's Ceram-x. So you just pronounce it Ceram-x. So hold that. What I want to do is I'm going to clean this pad. So once again, you put on, well, we'll try to do as fair as possible.
Yeah.
So put on, yes, the same amount of polish that you think you put on with the BlackLight.
I also want to point out that the way I'm putting the polish on. It's the way the chemical guys taught me.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
So, to the best that you can, replicate the pressure. We kept it the same
Right.
speed. Replicate what you did the first time, but do it now on the left side of this panel.
Okay.
So you go for it, and we're gonna film.
All right.
Take that off.
I think it's
Perhaps what we
about the same
could have
time.
done is timed
Should
it.
have timed it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I think that was pretty close to the time. Now, what I want to do, and I'm going to do a little plug here for Autofiber. They're one of my favorite microfiber cloth companies. You can thank me later, Ian. So this is a virgin. Wow. Let me just get it out. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
This is what's considered their edgeless. It has no edge to it, none of that traditional piping around it. So this is a virgin cloth. Okay, so what,
Yeah.
I don't know if the camera picked it up, but what were the words that first came out of your mouth?
Big difference.
Okay, and you know why?
Yeah.
Because this is a true polish.
Right.
It's not a compound,
Right.
which that's a video for another time. It's a true polish,
Yeah.
which means it has some abrasives to it,
Right.
so that it can create a permanent difference in the surface of that paint. So in my world,
Yeah.
as in my experience, I want to create a permanent difference for my customers.
Yeah.
So let's take the alcohol. Actually, I want to zoom in a little bit with my camera before I do an alcohol wipe. Now, by no means is this going to be perfect, but that's pretty damn shiny.
I think the difference is night and day.
Okay.
So, that's just me though.
Well, trust me, there's a marked difference. So we have over to the right, go up and down. I mean, you can still see all the grooves very clearly on the camera. Over here, they're still there. Trust me, that's not a perfect, flawless finish, but yes, there is a marked difference
Yeah.
between the two sides. So what I want to do, once again, to be fair, as I am trying to be fair, you hold that.
Yep.
Let's do the alcohol solution. I'm actually going to spray even more the first time to even be less fair in this moment. And I'll do it again. In fact, I'm going to go over both sides. And that's one of the cool things about CSI is that it is not made with heavy solvents. It's not made with fillers. And to put it in a simplified vernacular, I'm not even sure if that's the right word. To simplify it, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So because there's not a bunch of fillers and solvents in it, what you produce is what you produce. So you don't have to come back in and literally keep wiping it and rubbing it down with alcohol to remove the fillers and see like, oh, did I actually do a permanent, or did I create the results that I really want? That's what's one of many cool things about that polish. So, but to try to do this side-by-side comparison,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fair. I'm removing any fillers that may be there from either side if they exist. I know they exist on this side. I know this product's made without those. So here we are. So once again, do you see a difference?
Yeah, not only that, but also want to make another observation.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when I did the right side, I put more pressure on the right side.
Well, what'd you go and do that for?
I know, and also not only that, but like I feel like I think I spent less time on the left-hand side, and it feels like, I mean, it looks like way better.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
night and day.
So what we're gonna do now is, because, and let me add this. Let me add this because I'm doing my best to, train you, teach you, catch you up to speed. This is what's called aftermarket paint. And this also is what's considered a very, very hard clear coat. And because there is no true standardization in this industry, and if there's any that exist, it's very minuscule. This clear coat is what is considered a very hard clear coat.
Okay.
So yes, there is differences in clear coat like anything else in the world. Whether it's fabrics,
Yeah.
microfiber cloths,
Right.
there is a difference. So this is a hard clear coat. On an aftermarket paint job, because it's applied by hand, it's generally going to be applied much thicker than at the factory. The factory, their tolerances are so tight,
Yeah.
and they want to. They're kind of on the bare minimum plan as a rule.
Okay.
Meaning they want to get the car out of production and use the least amount as possible because it's all about the bottom line.
Right.
So, as a rule, there's going to be very few original equipment, or what's called OEM, original equipment manufacturing,
Okay.
that I'm going to use 1200 grit sanding paper on, because that's going to remove a lot of material. As a rule, I want to keep as much of that thickness of clear coat as possible while obtaining the results that I'm trying to obtain. So it's this balance act of how aggressive do I get while keeping as much clear coat intact as possible,
Yeah.
but still producing the results that I want.
Right.
So often, because you're working with such a thin layer of clear coat on original equipment, that it's a very fine balancing act. So if this was, let's say, stock paint, I would actually start out with 2000 grit or 2500 grit, somewhere along those lines. So 1200 in my world is actually kind of aggressive. In the paint body world, it's not considered overly aggressive at all because they have a lot more material to work with. That's just a little sidebar. Because what I want to do now is bring you back in and have you go a second round with both of these polishes.
Okay.
And take it to the next level and see what that next level actually does. But if you're a beginner, which you are,
Right.
you might be thinking, well, wait, okay, if I didn't achieve the desired results in the first go, now you might be even more scared to come back in a second time and buff it even more.
Right.
Would that be a
Yes.
fair statement?
Yes.
Okay, because I know I back in the day, that was one of my fears, like, wow, okay, it looks better, but A, I want it to look better,
Right.
and B, I want the customer to think it looks as best as possible.
Yeah.
So now, if I was able to achieve this, if I go in a second time, maybe I can achieve even greater success.
Right.
But wait, what if I burn through the clear coat? Oh my gosh, what do I do? So in this case, it's a non-issue because one, it's not a customer's car anyways, and we
Yeah.
can just repaint it if we want. Secondly, it's aftermarket paint, so I know it's thicker. But if it was a stock paint job, yes, you would have to be more cautious.
Okay.
What we've done so far on stock paint, by the time we're done doing what we're doing, will have reduced the clear coat more than I would like to.
Okay.
If the customer told me that they want to keep their car long term.
Yeah.
If they told me like, Darren, I don't care how much clear coat you remove, so long as you don't burn through it, I just want it done. It's
Right.
like, well, then you could say, well, that's an ethical call to make, but it's Johnny customer's car. It's his car.
Yeah.
I work for him,
Right.
so I'm going to follow his lead.
Right.
What he does with that's on his plate. So let's come back in.
Okay.
Let's start, since we last used the Ceram-x, let's just start there. I'm not going to worry about cleaning the pad because we are using the same polish and you haven't oversaturated the pad. So I can take this cloth from you.
Okay.
And what I want to do this time is also dial it up to 6.
Okay.
So, whoa, you're gonna go in hot now. So apply your polish. And just FYI,
Yeah.
the second time around, that's actually more polish than I would apply.
Okay.
But it's not gonna make or break your moment.
That's right.
So let's attack the left side,
Okay.
since that's the side that we're using the Ceram-x on. And I'm gonna time it because I can see a timer on my camera.
Yeah.
Let's just go with 30 seconds. And what I want you to do is pick a pressure
Okay.
and replicate that when you do the other side of the panel.
Got it.
All right, go for it. About 15 seconds left.
Nope.
Okay, that was about 30 seconds, give or take a second or two,
Okay.
that you went over that second panel. I'm gonna take my cloth.
Yep.
We're gonna wipe this off, which wipes off very easily.
Yeah.
So what do you think of those results? Because
Pretty good.
I'm looking at those results, and once again, if I was like a little puppy dog, I'd be wetting myself whenever I come upon a new person to pet me.
Yeah, it looks good.
So
I mean,
I like the looks.
yeah.
Is it perfect? Is it flawless? No, it's not. I know that only because of experience.
Yeah.
I would continue to work on that a little bit differently based on pad pressure, speed, those types of things. But those are pretty amazing results considering we started out with 1200 grit sanding marks. So let's do the same thing over here,
Okay.
and then we'll do a side-by-side comparison. And since we are going to change polishes, I will clean this pad. You find the black,
Yep.
whatever it's called. And usually in a case like this, I'm actually going to take my alcohol solution and I'm going to spray the pad. And then I'm just going to take a microfiber cloth and I'm going to hold it onto the pad and turn it on. And that's really my simple way of cleaning a pad. Then I might take my tool, give it a little go like that. Okay, so we're keeping the same speed.
Yeah.
You apply the same amount of polish.
Right.
Same pressure. We're gonna time you for 30 seconds. We're gonna see what happens.
I'll do the same amount I did on the other one, even though
Please.
I know it's a
Yeah.
little too much.
Yep, I'll take that from
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Let me grab my camera
Okay.
and go for it. And I'll time you.
Yep.
So, go. About 15 seconds left. Down.
I will say it does smell good though.
Come again?
It smells good.
It does smell good.
Yeah.
Yep, it does smell good. But with that said, since you brought it up,
Yeah.
uncap that and you smell it and tell me what you smell.
I don't smell anything.
That is the perfect answer.
Yeah.
You know what you will typically smell with compounds or polishes is a heavy solvent smell.
Oh.
Okay, and that's an indicator of, wait for it, heavy solvents in the formulation. Because you don't smell anything is a strong indicator that there's no heavy solvents in the formulation.
Interesting.
Yes.
Good.
So
Glad I brought that
that's
up.
only, yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So here we are, we wiped it with our quality microfiber cloth. Once again, thank you, Auto Fiber.
Yeah.
And let's take a look. And honestly, based on the description of that bottle, I'm actually impressed that it was able to do what it was able to do. Did it remove the sanding marks? Absolutely not. But what it did do is it polished the sanding marks themselves. So we still have what's called cornrows, valleys, grooves, use whatever term you want. The point is that there's still very specific sanding marks left in the paint. But now they've been enhanced at a permanent level so that the sanding marks are at least shinier. So did it perform like hardcore paint correction? I don't know, depends on your interpretation of what hardcore paint correction is. If I was doing wet sanding, as I did here, and I was trying to create a flawless finish, then I think the choice is pretty obvious as to what product would work. So here we have a product that can actually remove the sanding marks as well as provide an exceptional gloss. That's a pretty good winning combination in my book.
Yes.
Would you agree? Do you
Yes.
like that combination?
I do.
I would think. This, it will enhance the sanding marks. It won't remove them. So it does do enhancement. And because I'm doing the alcohol wipe and it still shows some gloss and some shine, tells me that it is changing the surface of this paint at a permanent level because I'm removing any of the fillers that are contained therein. So, once again, based on the description of that, I'm actually impressed. So,
But
I think you can feel a little less disappointed in your purchase.
But as a beginner, I will say this much that if I had a choice, I'd rather have the CSI product because it does both. One only does one,
Right.
the other one does both. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have the other. That's just me.
But yeah, who wouldn't want to
Yeah.
kill the
Yeah.
saying, who wouldn't want to kill two birds with one stone?
Yeah.
So we have, I have no idea how much. Until you've had the pleasure of shooting videos yourself, you just do not realize how frustrating it can be because the slightest change in lighting can change what is captured on film. But what is captured on film is not necessarily true to life because lighting comes in so many different versions. Whether it's artificial lighting like LEDs, fluorescent, incandescent lighting, then you have natural sunlight from the sunlight itself or the reflection of the sunlight. So it's just I'm just illustrating how frustrating it is being on that side of the camera. So, in conclusion, the industry, it's very confusing, especially for beginners. My goal moving forward is to dissect this industry at every level with a surgeon's scalpel and just deconstruct it so that there's greater understanding.
Right.
And it's not just the, hey, what is this product supposed to do? But it's like, well, you say it does this. Does it really do that? And that term, I don't even understand that. So help me understand that term. But is that term even relevant to my world as a professional detailer or as a car owner? Or is that just a word that you grabbed out of the air to sell more product? And a question that I didn't fully answer, where's your BlackLight product?
Just right there on the floor.
Okay. So I asked, could this be a weight loss supplement
Yeah.
or product? And you said yes. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, only because you say so, I have experience.
Right.
How it is a weight loss supplement is because when you walked out of there,
Yeah.
you probably had less money in your
Oh, yeah.
pocket than
Yeah.
before, right?
Right.
So officially, once that's out of your hand,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now we're adding weight to you, so
Yeah.
I'm getting very technical here.
Yeah, right.
Officially, you're going to be lighter in the pocketbook,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Unfortunately, that is the main agenda for so many manufacturers is like, how do we separate you from your money?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do that with saturating you with more and more choices. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that actually, I could argue that actually creates more damage than good.
Yeah.
Because now guys get so frustrated, and that's part of one of my big pet peeves with the industry is that you have guys on YouTube, guys on forums,
Yeah.
and they want to be special themselves, and so they will complicate things that don't need to be complicated, especially for a beginner.
Right.
And now as a beginner, you sit on the sidelines, you read these endless voices, and you become more and more confused, more and more frustrated, more filled with fear and anxiety, and
Yeah.
now you never even venture out. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin,
Yeah.
and therefore you do nothing.
Right.
That's what one of the major things I'm trying to avoid. I want you to do something. I want you to at least test something out,
Right.
and start building up that experience.
Yeah.
So in 50,000 words or less, that's the message of the day. So till next time, do you have any parting questions, words that I could answer in like 2 sentences or less?
No, but the one thing I will say that I am glad to be here, and I learned so much today.
Oh, good. I'm always pleased to hear that. So cool. All right, till next